Top of the morning, gang. You in particular, Stevie. So I just came up with a solution, I think. So when at all possible on these old amps, I like to keep things original. And this is a nice quality socket. It's a great quality socket, and I have no reservations about putting it into your amp. However, we have one pin that's problematic in your tube socket, and I don't like the idea of trashing the entire thing and disturbing the wiring when it's really not necessary. So if this works out, then we'll be some happy campers. On your rectifier socket, you have a couple unused pins. So obviously, pin number 7 is not used, and pin number 1 is not used on this particular rectifier. So I was able to gently convince it to depart the house. There, that's a little bit better, right? Without causing any damage. And let me show you. Let me get back down here. It's really difficult. How do I do this? Oop, there we are, back in focus. So, if you're wondering what's holding it in there, there's a little indentation. Where's my chopstick? I'm looking through this through the phone. There's a little indentation there that creates a friction fit. And then some guys, obviously, they'll bend the terminal side of it outward at like a 45-degree angle just to add a little more resistance to pulling out. But very easy for me just to have straightened this out. If you look, there's no metal fatigue on this. This has never been bent. It's perfectly fine. It's in new condition. I'm just going to remove that one pin from the offending socket and install this one in its place. You know, it's a 2-minute operation, so you save some money on labor and parts. And you're my guinea pig, buddy. So I guess while I got this thing out, I'll show you guys. So this is the surface that we, and this goes for all types of tube sockets, your novals, your octals, the whole thing. The principle, they're not all constructed like this, but in general, this is what they do. They contact the pins on your tube, pardon me, and then it's, there's conduction. But what tends to happen is over time, these get funky, these get corroded, and then they need to be cleaned out. So sometimes if you're having like intermittent signal, crackling, noise, the sound of rustling leaves, and it's not plate resistor or something of that nature, or a dirty pot, then you go through with some nice contact cleaner that doesn't leave any sort of a film. I always pump CRC, electronics cleaner, electronic cleaner in the red and white can. That's typically what I use. And I like it. I like the stuff. Some things that I use to clean them, sometimes it's just good enough to saturate the socket. And I know some guys like to use isopropyl alcohol for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You could do that. You saturate the socket. Let's pretend like it's inside of the socket. And I like these guys. The only trouble, and this is like a nylon brush. The only trouble with these guys, and I'll put it in there and give it a little rotation like that until it's clean. Obviously, I'm just doing a quick demo. I'm not actually cleaning it. I'll do that, but there's a better way or a different way to do it, where you could actually use the pins of the tubes themselves to do it. And I wouldn't use your vintage Phillips or what have you to do the job. I would just use like a broken tube to do it. And obviously you just spray it on there, and you know, assuming that you've cleaned the tube pins, you could run the tube in and out of the socket a couple times. But there's some caveats to that as well, such as, hey, it may loosen the tension of the socket. So there's several ways to skin a cat, as they say. And they're not all perfect, but that's a good way to go about it. Anyway, Stevie, I'm hoping this works out for you. If not, and there's no reason why it shouldn't, I love these sockets. Look at that contact area. It's almost 360 degrees. Love it. And then instead of some sockets, replacement sockets will have like a narrow oval window. That's incredibly difficult for mounting, you know, things like your heater wires or things of that nature, or any position where you'd have like multiple leads going into the same terminal. These are nice because they break it up. And the same thing with this. It's a good design. I like how one of the apertures is bigger than the other. But that's it, man. I'm going to drive out the other one when I get back home. And we should have some good news to report back. This is beautiful.